So the Judiciary Accountability Act, I mean, this is incredibly important legislation, and to be frank, it's an uphill battle. I mean, it has 26 co-sponsors in the House and I think 6 in the Senate, but that definitely does not reflect the enormous scope of people who are interested in this issue, and it really crosses the political spectrum. I mean, both Democratic and Republican judicial appointees harass their clerks, and both liberal and conservative clerks face harassment and retaliation by the most powerful members of the profession. I think the bigger political hurdle, it's not exactly a political hurdle, the bigger hurdle isn't members of Congress themselves being persuaded this is important. It is some very loud and vociferously opposed members of judiciary leadership. And it's not all judges. I mean, there are lots of judges who reach out to me privately to say they support me, they support what we're doing, they support increased regulation, increased oversight and accountability. Judiciary leadership is just so insistent that this is not a problem, there's nothing to see here, EDR, which is the Internal Dispute Resolution Plan, is sufficient, and any further regulation would threaten judicial independence, which is nonsense. They're not even willing to conduct any sort of climate survey to look at the scope of the problem. So I think a couple members of judiciary leadership are just this really loud and vociferous lobby, and what I'm trying to do and galvanize young attorneys and law clerks and other folks is to say, perhaps we're a less powerful lobby, but here we are sharing our stories, and that is why I think it's so important for me to be out there sharing my story, putting a personal face on this abstract issue and saying, you know, I think my story touches on a lot of different issues. It touches many aspects of the political spectrum. So it's an uphill battle, but we absolutely cannot give up. I mean, this cannot be the third rail of the Me Too era. Law clerks are so enormously vulnerable right now. I cannot even emphasize enough the enormous power disparity between a life-tenured federal judge and a fresh out of law school attorney in their first legal job, who is just totally dependent on this judge for career advancement, for a reference for their next job. It makes it enormously difficult to speak out in the face of outrageous workplace mistreatment. And it's also an issue in the legal community of deifying judges and disbelieving law clerks. There are so many attorneys, including lots of female attorneys, who are still telling me the right professional decision would have been not to report the mistreatment I experienced, and that speaking publicly tarnishes my reputation.